Get you a journalist who can do it all. Hi, my name is Sarah Grimmer, and welcome to my reel. I've spent the last 6 years as most recently a senior news MMJ and anchor, previously a breaking news reporter, a feature reporter, and a primary anchor. So my question is, how do I show you 6 years of passion, caffeine, and community involvement in a quick montage that keeps your attention? Let's give it a shot.
Senior reporter Sarah Grimmer.
Good evening and welcome to the 2021 Lansing mayoral debate. Inside of this building is Michigan State University's Confucius Institute. It's one of 36 Confucius Institutes in the United States. Grand Rapids Police are asking everyone who lives in this neighborhood on the southeast side to stay inside their homes this morning. 70 years ago, a woman arrived here on a train to meet the man that she married, but hadn't seen.
High-fiving
You were the Oprah of TP. You get some TP. You get some TP.
That's exactly what I want.
In 2018, Michiganders were supposed to be given the chance to vote on the minimum wage. When a teacher at Willow Ridge Elementary School calls in sick, there may not be a substitute teacher available to fill in. Instead, it may be Principal G teaching addition and spelling.
Yeah, you guys, we got a pretty huge crowd. They are competing for the Food Fight Friday trophy. Take a look around. This is about 1,200 students here at Holland High School. Awesome school spirit this morning.
Honestly,
It's a promise most all Michiganders remember.
Fix the damn roads.
3 years into Gretchen Whitmer's term as Michigan governor, how are the roads? Really? This morning I found on Michigan.gov, I looked from 2018 to 2019, and it did look like the Michigan roads were in a better condition. You won't see as many people in the river, and there's a good reason why. You can still hear the alarm going off in the building. Sanitary products, debris, E. coli, and other toxic particles. So why and how does it get into our waterways? We are reporting from 7th Street in Grand Rapids, and take a look in front of me, this massive tree limb. Now that is a great duo. It is 11:49. Here's a look at what is still to come. Where business after business, all of them are completely smashed in. Right now you're taking a look inside of Family and Pediatric Eye Care. Take a look at that, you guys. Not only is this business completely smashed in, but if you scan up and you look at the walls, Candace, you brought the life to that vlog. But he doesn't see that catching on in Lansing. I'm Sarah Grimmer reporting. Thousands of people drive across Interstate 496 every day. For many, it's a quick and convenient way to get across town. For others, it harbors loss. It's a reminder of a community lost 50 years ago.
There was one route that I was allowed to walk home from Lincoln School when I was in elementary school. I had to come down Williams to Birch, turn left to Olds Avenue, and turn right. Once, everybody else was going to go straight down Williams to Max, so I decided to go with them. My mother was waiting on the corner of Max and Williams with her arms crossed. To this day, I wonder how she knew. I think it was like 4th grade or something. That's how the neighborhood was. Everybody knew what we were supposed to do,
right.
And they would tell your mama.
And they could spank you when you got home, you got another spanking.
That's right.
Call it nostalgia, but there's nothing quite like your childhood neighborhood.
Schmitz was right down from grandmother's house, and that's where we shopped. And then, of course, Stone's Drugstore. Everything that we needed was right, and everybody that we knew. It was our world.
Siblings Diane Suleiman and Adolph Burton say their childhood neighborhood was a special one, bustling with neighbors who felt like family and businesses that felt like your best friend's house. It's now a long slab of cement.
You see where this sign is? Our house would have been right there, where that sign is.
The 11 miles of concrete that make up Interstate 496 pass through what was once Lansing's largest black neighborhood.
I brought my son over here and I tried to explain to him that our home was right there. And he said, "What are you talking about, Dad? There's a hole, there's an expressway there." And him being 29, 28 at that time, I couldn't make him understand.
Right.
But he does now.
Right.
There are homes all up and down here.
Right.
So people just don't know.
The United States government built I-496 between 1966 and 1970. To connect the East and West, they would demolish 600 homes and 200 businesses.
Well, it was heartbreaking.
The community it destroyed was one of the few places in the city where black people could buy a home, in a city divided by racism and a practice of redlining. Those who live there describe it as a safe haven.
Everybody knew everybody, everybody loved everybody.
There's nothing like it. Christmas morning, getting up, running outside. What did you get? Oh, this is what I got. I got this new bike. I got a glove. I got this, you know, just all that. Now you run outside, you look across, there's a highway. I mean, go back in the house, you know. It's just different.
In the 1960s, expressways like this were being built across the country, often in places where residents lacked the power to fight back.
If you take a look at the proposed routes of expressways in this country, match them up with red-lined neighborhoods, they match pretty close to 100%.
In all the cases, there was not one white neighborhood or Hispanic neighborhood. They all were black. So that's not a coincidence.
Lansing families were cut a check that supposedly matched their home's worth, and they were told to leave their homes within 60 days. A difficult feat, as until 1968, many other neighborhoods had it written in black and white that people of color were not welcome.
It was controlled by restrictive covenants, which basically said in your deed that African Americans, mostly marginalized citizens, could not live in those neighborhoods. Most of the deeds down in the Lansing area have those in them.
I coined the phrase years ago that I believe that whole project took the unity out of our community. If you didn't like the price and didn't go along with it, they just took your house and put you out. And I saw people go through that.
Do you feel that people who were displaced were adequately reimbursed by the government? Do you think that it was done fairly?
Absolutely not. No, there's no way, shape, or form.
There were three potential routes for I-496 and a few variables that likely led the government to choosing the one that they did. First, according to displaced families that I interviewed, the African American community didn't put up much of a fight at this time. Second, General Motors wanted it here. Looking back now, do you feel that it was race motivated? Do you feel that they would have done the same thing in a white neighborhood?
I don't think so.
I don't think that they would have done the same thing in a white neighborhood, but I don't think it's just because of race.
I think it was race and convenience. Right. It made sense at the time.
But the worst part to me was the unity that was lost.
With an interstate where their kitchen tables used to be, many black families moved to predominantly white neighborhoods.
Question earlier you asked, did desegregation happen faster? It happened almost overnight. Yeah, it really happened quickly because of the expressway.
Well, I was happy for the people because it was their chance to get out of that area. That area had been designated for poor people, mainly blacks.
Some people were happy and there were a lot of hard feelings. I think it worked both ways.
The neighborhood is remembered today by these adults who were teenagers when they were displaced. This fall, president of the Historical Society of Greater Lansing, Bill Castaneer, is working to bring their memories back to life. Castaneer has put together a team of residents to create a documentary about the neighborhood and a window display museum at the Knapp Center in downtown Lansing.
What we hope to do is we hope to catch people as they walk by. You know, they'll wonder what a barrel is doing in a window of a former department store, and hopefully they'll walk these 10 windows and get a concise kind of idea of what an expressway did to a neighborhood.
It's been more than 50 years since the demolition of the St. Joe neighborhood. More than 5 decades since Margaret's mother had neighbors that would watch what route her little girl took home from school.
Yeah, it was a neighborhood.
Since a community shaped by racism and remembered for unity was lost to a highway.
I know one thing though, and this has been my pledge, is when they put that expressway through there, it changed a way of life, and you can't replace that with money.
The Historical Society's documentary on the neighborhood is set to air in fall of 2021. After our interview, Castaneer told me that he has seen calls around the nation lately for highways like I-496 to be removed, but he doesn't see that catching on in Lansing. I'm Sarah Grimmer reporting. Inside of this building is Michigan State University's Confucius Institute. It's one of 36 Confucius Institutes in the United States, and it's scheduled to close at the end of this year. It's part of a recent national trend that could impact future global relations.
你不知道大部分的同学。
Yeah， 我不知道。
你跟我说话。
You hear that? That's 8th grade students at Post Oak Elementary School, Ava Diaz and Washington Sampaio, showing off their proficiency in Mandarin.
Our students learn Mandarin through 8th grade at Post Oak, and they spend 50% of their instructional time with a Mandarin teacher and 50% of their instructional time with an English teacher.
It's not like an hour a day and you don't understand anything. It's like you really get to dive deep into the language and like their culture and their food and what they would do.
Ava and Washington are immersed in Chinese learning daily because Post Oak Academy offers a Chinese immersion program. They're the only elementary school in mid-Michigan to offer it, and they were able to implement it in 2006 because of the Confucius Institute at Michigan State University.
We had the teachers come from Michigan State University through the Confucius Institute, so they literally came from China to do their studies in education.
Confucius Institutes are Chinese language and cultural centers funded by grants from China. They're usually on college university campuses, and they often work with their local K-12 schools to implement Chinese learning programs. According to the National Association of Scholars, there are 36 Confucius Institutes in the U.S. 8 of them are scheduled to close, and one of those is at MSU. It's scheduled to close at the end of 2021.
The overall intent is really to bridge two cultures, two civilizations together. That's the intention. I know that recently there's been more controversy. It's been kind of unfortunately looped into political issues.
Political issues. That's likely the reason for MSU's and many other Confucius Institutes across the country closing. In August of 2020, the State Department designated the Confucius Institute U.S. Center as a foreign mission of the Chinese government. And in recent years, largely conservative lawmakers have called out the program for instilling a pro-China viewpoint. Then, in March, the Senate voted to increase oversight on Confucius Institutes and cut Department of Education money to any university that did not comply with the new regulation rules, though the measure didn't pass in the House.
I think it's really important that children learn another language, and if it's cut, these children will not have that exposure that's so important.
MSU officials wouldn't sit down to discuss why they decided to close their institute, but they did offer this statement. Closing the institute was a difficult decision, but with the uncertainty of support at the federal level and our belief that more direct and intentional partnerships are a more sustainable and effective way to continue these important programs, we know this decision was best for the university and those we serve. Today, Post Oak is self-sufficient and says they will operate as usual when MSU's Confucius Institute closes. But the closing of these institutes will have an impact on Chinese learning programs in the U.S. and, inevitably, how our future generations interact with one of the world's superpowers.
I feel like it opens people up to the world, and if that's really good for businesses and stuff. So if you're a businessman, you could travel all over the world.
And you don't really expect someone that looks like me to just speak fluent Chinese. It's kind of like a surprise. And for more people to be like that, it's really nice.
Michigan State University's full statement on the closing of their Confucius Institute is listed online with this article. Now, the university did emphasize that many of their institute programs are going to be transferred to other areas within the university so that they can still help out area K-12 schools. I'm Sarah Grimmer reporting.